So yesterday, Joe had just had a knock on the door. He had a rat-a-tat-tat on the door when he was in the toilet. Let's see if we can find out who that was. To be clear, that isn't a knock at your door, readers. It's a knock on Joe's toilet door. Who is it? Asked Joe, irritated. It's Bob, replied. Yes, you've guessed it correctly. Bob. Go away, I'm busy, said Joe. I need to talk to you. Joe pulled the chain and opened the door. What do you want? He said angrily as he made his way to the sink. Bob trailed after him, munching on a bag of crisps. It was only an hour since he'd been eating chips like everyone else, but obviously Bob got hungry very easily. You shouldn't eat crisps in a toilet, Bob. Why not? Because I don't know, because the crisp wouldn't like it. Joe whacked the tap on to wash his hands. Anyway, what do you want? Bob put the bag in his trouser pocket and stood behind his former friend. He looked into Joe's eyes in the mirror. It's Lauren. What about her? Joe had known it. Bob was just jealous. Bob looked away for a second and took a deep breath. Don't think you should trust her, he said. Joe turned around, shaking with fury. What did you say? He shouted. Bob stepped away, taken aback. I just think she's what? She's fake. Fake? Joe felt white hot with fury. Lots of the other kids reckon she's an actress. They said she's in some advert or something, and I saw her out with this other boy at the weekend. What? Joe, I think she's just pretending to like you. Joe put his face next to Bob's. He hated being this angry. It was scary being so out of control. Say that again? Bob backed away. Look, I'm sorry, I don't want to fight. I'm just telling you what I saw. You're lying. I'm not. You're just jealous because Lauren likes me and you've got no friends at all. I'm not jealous, I'm just worried for you, Joe. I don't want you to get hurt. Yeah, said Joe, you sounded really worried about me when you called me spoiled. Honestly, Just leave me alone, Bob. We're not friends anymore. I felt sorry for you and talked to you, and that was that. What did you say? You felt sorry for me? Bob's eyes were wet with tears. I didn't mean... What, because the other kids bully me? Because my dad's died? Bob was shouting now. No, I didn't mean... Joe didn't know what he meant. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of £50 notes and offered them to Bob. Look, I'm sorry. Here you go. Buy your mum something nice. Bob knocked the money out of Joe's hand and the notes fell onto the damp floor. How dare you? What have I done now? Protested Joe. What's the matter with you, Bob? I'm just trying to help you. I don't want your help. I don't ever want to speak to you again. Fine. And you are the one people should feel sorry for. You're pathetic. Bob stormed out. Joe sighed, then got down on his knees and started picking up the wet banknotes. That's ridiculous, said Lauren later with a laugh. I'm not an actress. I don't even think I'd get a part in the school play. Joe tried to laugh too, but he couldn't quite. They sat together on the bench in the playground, shivering slightly at the cold. Joe found it hard to say the next sentence. He did, and didn't want to know the answer. He took a deep breath. Bob said he saw you with another boy. Is that true? What? Said Lauren. At the weekend. He said he saw you out with someone else. Joe looked straight at her, trying to read her face. For a moment, she seemed to retreat to the back of her eyes. He's a liar, she said after a moment. I thought so, Joe relieved. A big liar, she continued. I can't believe you were ever friends with him. Well, it was only for a bit, squirmed Joe. I don't like him anymore. I hate him. Promise me you won't ever speak to him again, said Lauren urgently. Well, promise, Joe. I promise, he replied. A wicked wind whipped through the playground. Chapter 18, The Vortex 3000. Lauren didn't think the petition to get Miss Spite reinstated was going to be popular. And she was right. By the end of the day, Joe had only got 3 signatures. His, Lauren's, and Mrs. Trafe's. The dinner lady had only signed it because Joe had agreed to try one of her hamster dropping tartlets. It tasted worse than it sounded. Despite having what was essentially not much more than a blank sheet of paper, Joe still felt it was worth presenting his petition to the headmaster. He didn't like Miss Spite one bit, but he didn't understand why she'd been sacked. Despite everything, she was a good teacher, certainly a lot better than Narnbread or whatever his silly name was. "Hello, children," said the headmaster's secretary brightly. Mrs. Chubb was a jolly lady who always wore glasses with brightly coloured frames. She was always sitting in the headmaster's office behind her desk. In fact, no one had ever seen her stand up. It was not inconceivable that she was just so big she was permanently wedged into her chair. "We are here to see the headmaster, please," declared Joe. "We have a petition for him," added a supportive Lauren, holding a piece of paper in her hand demonstratively. "A petition? What fun," beamed Mrs. Chubb. "Yes, it's to get Miss Spite her job back," said Joe in a manly way that he hoped might impress Lauren. For a moment he toyed with the idea of thumping his fist on the desk to add emphasis, but he didn't want to topple over any of Mrs. Chubb's abundant collection of lucky gonks. "Oh yes, Miss Spite, wonderful teacher. Don't understand that at all, but children, I'm sorry to say you've just missed Mr. Dust." "Oh no," said Joe. "Yes, he just left. Oh look, there he goes." She pointed one of her bejewelled sausage fingers to the car park. Joe and Lauren peered through the glass. The headmaster was edging his way along at a snail's pace with his Zimmer frame. "Slow down, Mr. Dust, you'll do yourself a mischief," she called after him. Then she turned back to Joe and Lauren. "He can't hear me." Well, in truth, he can't hear a thing. "Do you want to leave that little petition thing with me?" She angled her head and studied it for a moment. "Oh dear, it looks like all the signatures have fallen off." "We were hoping for more," said Joe weakly. "Well, if you run, you might just catch him," said Mrs. Chubb. Joe and Lauren shared a smile and walked slowly out to the car park. To their surprise, Mr. Dust had abandoned his Zimmer frame and was clambering astride a shiny new Harley-Davidson motorbike. It was a brand new jet-powered Vortex 3000. Joe recognised it because his dad had a small collection of 300 motorbikes and was always showing his son brochures of new ones he was going to buy. The superbike, at £250,000, was the most expensive motorbike ever produced. It was wider than a car, taller than a lorry, and blacker than a black hole. It shone with a very different chrome to that of the headmaster's Zimmer frame. "Headmaster!" called Joe, but he was too late. Mr. Dust had already put on his helmet and revved the engine. He pulled the beast into gear and it roared past the other teachers' humble cars at 100 miles an hour. It was so fast that the headmaster was clinging on by his hands, his little old legs dangling up in the air behind him. "Yippee!" cried the headmaster as he and the machine disappeared off into the distance, becoming a dot on the horizon in a matter of seconds. "There is something very strange going on," said Joe to Lauren. "The witch gets a sack, the headmaster gets a £250,000 motorbike." "Joe, you're being silly. It's just a coincidence," laughed Lauren. "Now, am I still invited for dinner tonight?" she added, rapidly changing the subject. Yes, said Joe eagerly. "How about I meet you outside Raj's in about an hour?" "Cool. See you in a bit." Joe smiled and watched her walk away. But that bright golden glow that surrounded Lauren in Joe's mind was beginning to darken. Something felt very wrong. Chapter 19. A Baboon's Bottom. "Maybe your headmaster is simply having a midlife crisis," pronounced Raj. Stopping off at the newsagent's shop on the way home from school, Joe had told Raj about the curious events of the day. "Mr. Dust is about 100. He's got to be more than midway through his life," said Joe. "What I mean, clever clogs," continued Raj, "is that perhaps he was just trying to feel young again. But it's the most expensive motorbike in the world. It costs £250,000. He's a teacher, not a footballer. How could he afford it?" proclaimed Joe. "I don't know. I'm not a detective like Miss Marples or the great Shylock Holmes," said Raj, before looking round his shop and lowering his voice to a whisper. "Joe, I need to ask you about something in the strictest confidence." Joe lowered his voice too. "Go ahead. This is very embarrassing," Joe whispered. But do you not use your dad's special toilet paper? Yes, of course, Raj, everybody does. Well, I've been using his new one for a few weeks now. The mint-flavoured bum wipes, asked Joe. There was now a huge range of Bum Fresh products. Oh, we'll find out tomorrow what those Bum Fresh products are. Have a good day. Bye.